Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Nana the Canner here, and I want to welcome you back to the edge of the Boreal Forest. Well, the long-awaited garden update is here. It's been quite some time since I posted my initial garden video, late winter, early spring. We were initially putting in seeds at that point in time, so there's a long stretch there from then till now, but I can get into the reasoning for that in a little bit. For those of you that are just joining us and new to the channel, we live in Northeast Saskatchewan in a garden zone 2, which means that is the second harshest climate to be growing a garden in. Uh, we have a frost-free time of approximately 3 to 3.5 months. So around the end of May, beginning of June, the first week or two in there is our last frost-free date. And then we usually get frost warnings coming out the beginning of September, in and around there. So that gives us about 3.5 months. We grow an organic garden here. We don't use herbicides, we don't use pesticides, and we don't use chemical fertilizers. I don't have time to do mulches. Mulches are expensive here if you don't do your own. We don't have any fancy trellises. We garden in a way that we consider traditional gardening, the way that our fathers and great grandfathers did when they first come to this country and to this area. So it's pretty basic. We work the soil, we plant the seeds, we plant the plants that we've started, and we weed and we care for the garden as it grows. So no special equipment other than a tiller and a hoe, a few things like that. Is pretty basic gardening. It's organic, traditional gardening is what we do here. So every year I name my garden. For example, in 2020, for good reasoning, everybody can figure it out, it was the apocalypse garden. In 2021, we had a severe drought during that summer, and the garden ended up being named the drought garden, and so on and so forth. This year in 2025, about a month ago, my mother-in-law passed away. She had spent 7 years in long-term care, and so I think she was ready. She always enjoyed gardens. She always listened to me tell her about her gardens and what was going on and how things were, and, you know, are the tomatoes ready? Can you bring me some tomatoes? How about the cucumbers? I'd love some cucumbers. So I would bring that to her. So this year, I've named this garden Dorothy's Garden. Now, little background. So for those of you that were not with me last year, I will leave a link in the description box down below to a video. It was called The Great Garden Disaster. And last year, we started putting in the garden, and we got about halfway done when we started receiving rain, and it rained for 6 weeks straight. If it didn't rain in the morning, it was guaranteed to rain in the afternoon. Every day it rained. We received 12.5 inches of rain in 6 weeks, and it destroyed my garden. The seeds were soggy. They wouldn't germinate. Seeds were washed away. It was just a disaster. And finally, sometime in July, we decided that it wasn't worth it. I mean, it wasn't worth the effort, and there wasn't enough time to put in a brand new garden. So we tilled it up. It was very disappointing for me, and those of you that were with us, you will know that. But out of that, we decided that maybe we would take the opportunity to summer follow it and add some manure on top, which is what Papa did. He actually took and he some areas in the garden, he took it the topsoil right down to the clay, because there was quite a few rocks in there. So what he did was he exposed those rocks, and he dug them out or took them out with the tractor. Then he put the topsoil back on, and then he laid a layer of manure on there, and he worked it in. And so for the entire rest of the season, he had worked it in, with the exception of the asparagus bed, the rhubarb bed, and the raspberry bed. So it got a really good summer following with manure. Now, the problem is when you bring in something new, whether it's manure or brand new soil, you bring with you every single weed that's in there. And this is what has happened this year, is not only are we having a great garden, but we are also waging a war on the weeds. Now, because of what happened in the spring, I have been unable to do barely any of the work in this garden. The end of March, just after my first video, I had sustained a shoulder injury at work where I have tendinopathy or tendonitis in my shoulder. And they also found some arthritis starting in there, which is very unfortunate. So I was unable to put in the bulk of the garden. I might have been able to just put in some really light seeds with this hand. But the rest of it, my family did for me. They put this garden in and then they come back. And every weekend, probably in June, and even for the first week in July, they waged the war on the weeds as the garden came up. Several grandchildren and my stepdaughters and you name it, like there was probably a half a dozen to a dozen people. My stepson, his children, my stepdaughter-in-law, they waged the war on the weeds. And I'm telling you, if it hadn't been for them, I don't think much of anything would have survived and come up. So I just wanted to say thank you so very much to each and one of you. Nana loves you. I thank you so much for what you've done to bring it this far. Now everybody's gone home. So it has been a few weeks since the garden has been totally weeded out. We had a little bit of rain, but for the most part, it's been hot and sunny. So all the tiny little weeds and all the seeds that were still in the ground for weeds, they've sprouted and they've came up. So not only do we have some amazing looking plants, we have some amazing looking weeds. So because I'm only able to come out probably two or three times a day, maybe for 10-15 minutes, and pick with my left hand because my injury is in my right shoulder, I can only do about that much before I start to feel it in my neck. And then that's it. I have to quit. So it is disappointing to see the weeds starting to take over again, but it is what it is, and we have to roll with it. And I do believe some of the family plan on coming back when the peas are ready, because they're already flowering, guys. So we're going to have fresh peas pretty quick. So when you see the garden, just know that a lot of hard work went into it, despite the fact that there are probably a million weeds in it. So why don't we get started? So just a quick look at the overall garden in general here. I always, most of the time, I start on the north end with the corn. So we'll start with that. All right. So I have to map the garden because the marker tends to come off of the homemade stakes. So sometimes we can't see what it is, especially after the rain has washed it away. So I have my map. So here we have a row of variety called early northern sweet corn. So we have a whole row of that. And I don't know, they're about 2.5 feet high, maybe, somewhere in there. And the next row we have a corn variety called Sheba corn. And then over here we have a bicolored corn called Trinity. And then at the end of that is a popcorn. Now, I don't know if you can see this. Maybe I'll bring you in a little bit closer here. So when you look at these two varieties of corn, you can see that the leaves are opened right up. But when you look at this corn here, the leaves are kind of curled together for the most part. And what I noticed is this in my opinion is stress. What I noticed was we had received 2 millimeters of rain a few days ago, and when we did receive that, they weren't like that. I think because they had gotten some moisture, but now you can see they're kind of closing up. They look like they're starting to dry on the tips. So I don't think that we're getting quite enough moisture for this kind of corn, variety of corn. But I really do want to have a bicolor variety in the garden. So hopefully that this will turn out. We get a little bit more rain soon, and this will be looking a little bit healthier. All right, so in this row we have some watermelon, we have some squash, zucchini, some pumpkins. So I'll just take you through this row. We also do have some sunflower plants that are coming up. So with each hill, there's a stake, and then I've planted around the stake. And I usually plant about 8 or 10 because typically half of them don't come up. And then on each side of the stake, what I'll do is I will plant a sunflower seed. So there are a few sunflowers that did make it. What happened is when the sunflower seed would germinate, the actual shell would come out of the ground on the tip of the leaves, and then the birds would take and they would peck away at it, and they did destroy quite a few, but we do have some sunflower plants that did survive. So let's go take a look here. All right, so this first hill is a sugar baby watermelon. Very pleased. I can very rarely get it to this point. They're still quite small, but they are coming along. The rain that we got this past week, the 2 millimeters, did help them. So we have one hill of sugar baby watermelon. And then under this big sunflower, which I'll show you in a minute, we have 4 more smaller plants that have germinated, and those are a crimson sweet watermelon, and we have a beautiful, beautiful sunflower coming there. You can see that it's starting to create the bloom of the sunflower, so I'm excited. All right, I'm really excited about this hill. This is the very first year I've planted it. This is a squash called mashed potatoes. And I think every single seed actually germinated in this hill. So it's a gigantic hill, and I do believe that there are a few buds starting with flowers. I can see a few flowers starting up there. So that is a brand new one called mashed potato. Right here, I had planted a hill of a new variety of butternut squash called Spellcast, and not a single one of them germinated. So I won't be choosing that again next year. The next 2 hills here that you see, they're just a standard butternut squash. So they're faring okay. And then we have a hill of zucchini. And as you can see, we have zucchini starting, which is exciting. There's quite a few blooms on here. And then we get into a little bit more weeds. We have another sunflower here, and this hill is the golden zucchini, and I'm not sure why we have this silvering or gray on the leaves. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's stressed because we're not getting enough rain. I'm not sure. So I don't see any. Oh, there's a little tiny golden zucchini starting right down in there. We have one golden zucchini that's starting. This is a larger hill here, and this is a variety of squash called vegetable marrow, and you can see we've got some blooms on these as well. The reason why I wanted to plant this particular variety this year is because my mom told me that my grandmother used to plant it, and she would can it, and that's how they would eat it, is out of the can, heat it up. So I was very curious about it. So we'll see how it turns out. And then we also have another sunflower right there as well. All right, so we have another hill there, and just up a little farther, these few hills need to be weeded. So these 3, there's 3 hills, this one, that one, and then there's one just beyond there. They are all spaghetti squash. This variety is called Small Wonder. And then we have 2 hills of just standard vegetable spaghetti squash. And then we get into the pumpkins. All right, so we have 5 hills of pumpkins. Sorry, I think there's 6 here. So the first one, this one here, this one is called Lumina, and that is a white pumpkin with a nice, beautiful orange flesh inside. So excited about that. We did plant that one other year, and the kids really thought that was fascinating because usually pumpkins are orange. There was a blue color pumpkin I wanted to plant this year, but I was unable to get the seeds for that. We have another beautiful sunflower coming here. So then there's two more down here. These two right here, they are called small sugar pumpkins. And then on the very end, we have three more hills of the bigger jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. And then you can see here, this one row of corn right beside all these pumpkins here, that is the robust popcorn. And there is a stake there to stake it off from the bicolor, and you can actually see where the bicolor ends and where the other popcorn begins just by how the leaves are curled in. All right, so we have, and I have already started digging a few of the baby potatoes to eat. I just can't fathom going to the store and buying potatoes when there are baby potatoes in the garden. So the first row here, we have a white variety called Kennebec. And then the second row is a Yukon Gold. And the Kennebec are flowering, and I believe the Yukon Gold may be finished now. Then we move over. There's two rows in here. And these are the red potatoes. And they are red Norlands, and they have finished flowering. And then we have here two rows of the purple potatoes that I really love and enjoy. These are purple Carib or Caribe. They are great potatoes. They are great storers. They make wonderful mashed potatoes. An all around very, very delicious potato. So we have two rows there, and they are done flowering. So I had wanted to make and can a vegetable soup recipe that had lima beans in it. But do you think that I could find lima beans anywhere in our area? Not even so much as a can or frozen lima beans. The only place I can get lima beans is through Amazon. They are dried lima beans, but they come in 22-pound packages. So I thought I would try and grow lima beans. But unfortunately, in this row, all there is weeds about 2/3 of the way up. I only had about 3 lima bean plants that actually germinated, and then they ended up dying. So it was a complete failure for the lima beans this year, but that doesn't mean I won't try again next year. So the remainder of that row after where the lima beans were planted is kidney beans. And I've had really, really good luck with doing kidney beans. So when there is a chance or when I'm able to, I'll try and get it weeded out. But if not, I'm not overly concerned. These beans will actually just, the plants will live out their lives. The pods will form, they will grow, and then they will die off and dry. And before they get too dry, I will pull them and take them out of the garden. So this is just the kidney beans just sit there and do their thing until fall. So the remainder of this row is kidney beans. The first part of this row is kidney beans all the way up to there. In the remainder of this row is navy beans or white beans, Great Northern beans. And they are just starting to bud. There is no blooms on them quite yet. So the last half of this row and the last half of this row are both navy beans. And they will do the same thing. They will sit, grow, produce pods, die off, dry up a little bit, and then in the fall I will take them out as well. So they are a drying bean along with the kidney beans. The beginning part of this row is a black bean. So this is the second year I think I've tried black beans, and they've turned out fairly well. So this is another drying bean, and the variety of that is Night Rider black bean. All right, so this entire row here is all green beans and yellow beans, and we have 3 different varieties of each. So the first part of the row here is Blue Lake Bush beans, followed by dwarf green and then improved tender green beans. And then following that, you can actually see how well they are they're blooming here. So I'm really excited for this. And then following that, and you can see they're blooming as well, we have yellow beans. We have a gold mine yellow bean, a gold rush, and an improved golden wax bean. So not that long from now, these beans will be forming, and then we'll be able to pick them. I have a recipe from one of the Ball canning books for a pickled bean, and it is just fantastic. And I'm so very excited to do that canning video for you in the future here. So one thing I didn't mention is when the garden was put in, the corn was planted with a seeder, and I'll have to show you that at the end. So the corn was planted with a seeder. The kids put in the beans all by hand. We could have used the seeder, I guess. They're really not that great at it, so they just laid them in a groove in the ground, like in a little trench, and covered them up. So the corn was planted with a seeder, and then the peas were done with a seeder as well. So, and they had a whole pile of fun with that, I'll tell you. It was not my intention to put in 5 rows of peas, but they were having so much fun with it that we just went with it. And I did have the extra pea seed. So we have 2.5 rows of green arrow peas. And then the 5th row here is a 1/2 row of green arrow, and at the very end are Mr. Biggs. I know it's hard to see, but the last 2 rows are a homesteader pea, and those are really great pea as well. So we'll just take a closer look here. So you can see that the green arrow peas have been blooming and are still blooming and already forming pods. The pods haven't started filling out at all, but they are forming. You can feel tiny little peas in there. But the Mr. Biggs didn't do quite as well this year in germination. Well, that and the fact that we have the war on the weeds happening too. But you can see that some of them are flowering and we have pods forming. And this is why they're called Mr. Big. Look how huge they are. Like they've got to be a good 4 inches long there. Then you can see the blooms on the homesteader peas, and then the smaller pods on them are forming as well. In the next few rows, it gets a little dicey here. So the first variety of carrots is an Atlas carrot, and they don't get very long or very big. You wouldn't believe that all of this was actually totally weeded out 2 weeks ago. It's just crazy. Okay, so back to the Atlas carrot. They're actually a round carrot, like they would look similar to a huge radish. And so they're really great for putting in like stews or pot roasts and stuff like that. You just scrub them up and put them in whole. So we have a few of those that have come up. It's a little bit patchy, but there are a few in here. Then we have just a multi-variety, a package that's called rainbow carrots. And there's purple and orange and yellow and cream colored carrots in there. So they actually germinated quite well. It was just a short little row for that. Then here we had 2 kinds of parsnips, hollow crown and Harris model. None of that came up. I think it was just too dry and not enough rain at that time. So none of that germinated. And then this is a carrot called Danvers Half Long. And the germination rate on that was very poor as well. It's very spotty. I would have to say this is going to be a very, very poor carrot year. I may have to end up buying from our local Hutterite group or buying bulk from the city. But yeah, like very few carrots germinated along this whole row. As well as this row here, we've had a couple different, 2 different varieties of carrots. Very spotty, the Royal Chantenay. There's a little bit more of that, but my favorite, the Scarlet Nantes, there's a lot less than that. But some years you have good years for some things and bad years for others, and this year is a bad carrot and parsnip year. All right, we have a row here which had rutabaga and turnip. Now, for the most part, they came up, but what happened was they came up, but the heat, there was so much heat at that point in time, and the very top bit of soil was so dry that they came up, and by the next day, they were dead. They burnt crisp, and I did not have time. Well, here's an example right here. See this? This is one that actually survived a bit. But all the rest, they basically scorched in the ground. Then the beets aren't as good as what they usually are. I usually have really good beet crops, but this year I'm wondering if it's the manure content, maybe so fresh, I don't know. But we have a rainbow beet right here, so it's a multicolored beets that were planted here. Then a golden beet, so there are a few that are surviving here. And then we have cylindra beets. You can see where some of them are really big down here. See? And yet it looks like some are just germinating right there. But again, like there isn't much moisture right now, so they aren't faring well and they're very spotty. So we have a cylindra beet. And then down here, what is that? Detroit red beet. And they're coming better down in that area than they are down here. Okay, so we have 3 different rows of tomatoes here. In this first row here, they are all paste tomatoes. So we've got Mamma Mia, San Marzano. We'll have to go down and check and see what the other one is. And then in this one, we have varieties, for example, Prairie Pride. And then the next one, we have varieties, for example, Manitobas. So we'll take a look at that here. Yeah, so these are Mamma Mia's right here. And you can see they are flowering. You can see the leaves are curled in, which I think is because of the lack of moisture. But there's lots of flowers on them. I haven't seen any fruit yet. So these are the Mamma Mia's. You know, I wonder if the dogs have taken out a steak or two from here. So for sure, Mamma Mia's and San Marzano. There might even be some Romas in here. I'm not sure. I may have sent those across the road to my stepson. But you can see, like, we have lots and lots of blooms happening here. And then they go all the way to the end there. Well, that's not good. I can't find any of the steaks here. That's not good, because when I want to collect seeds, what am I going to do? I won't know what variety it is. All right, so we've got beefsteaks, we've got Manitobans, we've got Prairie Pride, we've got Bush Early Girls. That are the main ones I think are in these 2 rows here. And actually, I do see tomatoes starting, so I will go find some and we'll show you what they look like. These are little Prairie Prides coming right here. Right in there. Yay! I'm so excited because we're going to get to use our brand new electric tomato strainer this year. Okay, so these are tiny tin baby tomatoes. There's no tomatoes forming yet, but there's a lot of flowers on there. We have a few plants of those, probably a dozen maybe. Some of the leeks made it, not all of them, but some of them did. So our red onions are a little spotty, but a few came in. And then we have a little less than a half a row of white onions right there. And then we have a whole row looking really good of yellow onions. and they are looking great. They don't seem to mind the lack of moisture one bit here. See? Looking good. So I planted 3 different kinds of radishes this year. I planted the cherry bell, which is right here. And then down here, a German giant. And then right here, they look small, but they look really great when you get down in there. A variety called Champion. The cherry bell always bolts on me, so this is why I'm trying to find a different variety that won't do that so much in this climate or in this particular patch. And I think I found it. The Champion, even though this plant itself is small. Look at that. Very difficult, very, very difficult to grow radishes here, and I don't know why. Okay, so here we have a row of some very sick looking peppers. They are not faring well at all. And the whole row goes down right to the very end. Unfortunately, you can't see the ones inside those weeds there, but there are quite a few varieties. We have purple beauties, we have orange delirio, we have a yellow California golden, we have red knights, just a couple different varieties of red peppers. And then we have California Wonder Green on the very end. But you can see that there are a few that are starting to flower. And we have one whole row of cucumbers. And we have a couple slicing varieties. One called Ashley, another called Dasher, and another called Straight 8. There might be a few buds starting on these. Yeah, you can see there's a few buds. I'm excited for the cucumber patch to actually do well this year because we don't have very many jars left of our homemade dills. And then the first little bit here, there are 3 different kinds of pickling cucumbers. The first here is called Quarantine. Very excellent. Love it. They seem to be doing very well. They're getting buds on them. And then we have Homemade Pickle. That's a new variety. We have a National Pickling cucumber down on the end here, not quite as big. We have Quarantine, Homemade, and National Pickling. We got to back up here. I missed a few things. Right here we have a variety of Swiss chard coming called Bright Lights. Then we have just a standard heirloom variety of Swiss chard called Fort Hook Giant. Those are coming quite well. And then I have 2 kinds of spinach, which are unfortunately starting to bolt. We have Lakeside and Bloomsdale. We have some kale coming here. And then we have some lettuces. We have Grand Rapids right in there. No oak leaf germinated. We have a few salad bowl coming. A few prize head. We have a deuce. It's called Deuce. It's a head lettuce. We planted some old seed called Pace Setter, but none of that came up. Unfortunately, none of the Great Lakes came up. That was old seed as well. We have a Butter Crunch here. That is coming up fantastic. And then we have a roll of dill, the first, or a little bit of dill. The first is Fern Leaf. And you can see we do need a little bit of moisture in there. They're kind of light in color. And then we have Diana dill and just a standard dill, which I need to get in here and see if I can handle pulling some of these. And right here we have another half row of dill because the rows got a little crooked here. So we did plant some baby asparagus in and up to the original asparagus, and there are quite a few that actually survived. We just need to get in there and it needs to be weeded. See, there's a few small brand new baby asparagus plants there. And the original asparagus is right here. We had enough for a few meals this year, and I'm just letting it go again. Next year we'll probably be able to do some pickling or freezing some for later use. And these plants here are, this is third season. It takes a long time to establish asparagus. And down here is the rhubarb patch. We have, I think, a dozen rhubarb plants. We have two different kinds. We have, I think, 6 or 8 strawberry rhubarb varieties, and we also have 4 Canada Reds. They're very small yet. They're still brand new and young. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5, 6, 7, and 8. So there's 8 of those. They look pretty healthy though, despite the fact that they're surrounded by weeds. And then the Canada Reds are doing much better. These two, this is their 3rd year in here. And these are just brand new in here. And all 4 of these are Canada Red. And starting at the edge of one of the rhubarb rows is our red raspberries. These plants are, I think, 3rd year, 4th year. The 1st year we had a drought and they didn't do anything. They hadn't started to like spread. They were just tiny. And then 2 years after that, 2 seasons, they started to spread now. And you can see shoots coming up around the original areas. And so this is 4th season, and I'm excited. If we could just get a little bit more rain, they would probably fill out a little bit better, because this year we have raspberries. Very exciting. This one's loaded. We're not done yet. There's more to see. So I have a couple of fruit trees to show you. This tree right here, that was as big as the tree right there. It was a beautiful, beautiful apple tree, which unfortunately a couple years ago, it broke off. It seems to have had like rot along the bigger part of the trunk, and it broke off. And so we were deeply disappointed because we were getting some really beautiful apples. I mean, for northeast Saskatchewan, I mean, to have apples on an apple tree is just phenomenal. So we just left it, and we're very excited to see this year that we have apples coming. Look at that. I didn't think it would happen, but it did. So the original part of the trunk is in there, and then these shoots have come off of that, and they have produced apples. This one has apples on it. It's beautiful. They're coming on as well. But I just want to show you what's happening to this tree. The same thing that is happening to the previous tree. So this apple tree is not going to last too much longer because the center of its trunk is rotting out, which is really unfortunate. But we are going to have apples this year. All right, so all along the inner perimeter of the yard, or the bulk of the yard, we have chokecherry trees. And this year, we did not get frost when they were blooming, and we are going to have one heck of a chokecherry harvest this year. the bulk of the trees are full all along this way. And then I'll take you to the back as well. See, we aren't even to the back yet. All along here. And in behind the house here. All along the inner part of the yard, all the way down to the other end. Full of choke cherries. So choke cherries, they ripen the end of August, beginning of September, here and there. The thing with choke cherries, though, is they have a really tiny pit inside. So you can't really mash them up for jams or anything like that. But the three main things that we use choke cherries for is to make choke cherry jelly, where we juice it out first and make choke cherry jelly. Choke cherry syrup, wonderful on waffles and pancakes. Fantastic. And this year we're going to have an ample amount of choke cherry juice. It is a very bitter cherry, or berry, I should say. It's very bitter. So that's why we do end up using a lot of sugar with it. But it is, even though these were planted here, it is native to this area and they grow fantastic. They are a wonderful addition to the cold storage, the pantry in the winter. I truly enjoy when there's family home, or even if it's just myself, making a few pancakes or French toast and having some choke cherry syrup on it. So I'm really looking forward to the wonderful harvest that will happen when we do these choke cherries, if we can get in there before the birds come. And before I let you go, once again, I just want to say thank you so very much to my family for all the help you've given me. None of this would have been possible without you this spring and so far this summer. You've done a really great job. You've put a lot of work into it. We went through a lot of ice cream, didn't we? We made a lot of memories. And for those of you who are still here, I want to thank you so very much for watching to the very end. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to share, comment, subscribe, and like. And thank you, and have a good day.